Good evening and welcome to day 15 of the International Great Black Read Aloud Day 2024 edition. My name is LD Robinson and I am your Read Aloud host for this evening. Um, we are super excited about, and I say that every night, but I really am super excited and amazed that we have done this. This is our fourth year, and we are just thankful that you keep tuning in, that you keep listening and watching and commenting. And so we're happy that you join us from wherever you are in the world. We really appreciate it. And we hope that that our read alouds are helping you to really grasp how vast um, the world of Black literature is. And so it's day 15 here, and it is Gardening and Farming Day. And we have a selection, but before we do that, we want to invite you to subscribe to our website, greatblackreadaloudday.org. And we want to invite you to follow us online so that you don't miss what we're going to be doing this year. And we will be doing things. So follow us online at Black Read Aloud. We are partners in literacy and partners for literacy, and we partner with the Fresh Book Festival. And so we want to invite you out to Fresh Book Festival 2024. There is a roster of authors. We have New York Times bestselling authors, USA Today bestselling authors, workshops, all kinds of things that will take place. And we have the wonderful film festival that takes place on Thursday evening. It will be on the campus of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and it is sponsored by the Stan Harrison State Farm Insurance Agency. And so Stan Harrison is a faithful sponsor of literacy with the Fresh Book Festival. So we want to make sure we say that. And of course, the city of Daytona Beach. And many other sponsors, but my job is not I'm here to invite you. And you can see all of that if you go right over to Fresh Book Fest or Fresh Book Festivals, and you will be able to see all of the sponsors and those who have partnered in literacy, because we truly believe that literacy is a legacy. And the only way that we can do that is we have to put some feet to it. And so you're invited to go out and get your tickets at freshbookfestivals.net. All right. And we are super excited about our read for today. This year, I mean, every year I think our reads are just great. This year it has been, they've been fantastic. And so it is Gardening and Farming Day. And we have a selection for today. And our selection for today, I'm going to put up the cover so that you can see it. It is How to Grow. Nurture Your Garden and Nurture Yourself. Actually, it's Nurture Your Garden, Nurture Yourself by Mr. Marcus Bridgewater, who is also known as Garden Marcus on TikTok. And so we are super excited to be here, and we're going to go ahead and put up um, the title, and we're going to commence to reading. And here at the International Great Black Read Aloud Day, we read for educational purposes. We want to simply continue to show how diverse Black literature is from all around the world. We just want to help you to see that. And so first, we're going to start with the introduction, and then we're going to do 3 and 4. I'm going to do part of the introduction. And our selection for today again is How to Grow, Nurture Your Garden, Nurture Yourself by Marcus Bridgewater. Living in a thorny rose bush. I grew up in farm country, so did I. And while we were rich in spirit and nature, we were poor in resources and assets. It was a beautiful place with flowers and orange groves and cornfields. I had trees to climb, woods to explore, and railroads to walk. I also had the love of my grandma, the matriarch of the small town of Zellwood, Florida. Sounds familiar for those Floridians, huh? She's now the oldest person living in the area. It was here in her garden that I began learning about plant care as a 4-year-old boy. Some of my earliest memories are of watering the hibiscus trees, picking their red and pink flowers, and chewing on the stems. I learned about the importance of watering at the roots when the sun was hot and the need to be consistent in my care of the garden. Paying diligent attention to the plants was essential to their growth. Most importantly, I learned that growth cannot be forced, only fostered. Alongside these joys, the thorny rosebush pricked me too. Zellwood was changing as drugs, violence, and crime crept in from the cities. I was bullied at school for having a speech impediment, challenged as the only child who looked like me in the gifted class, and laughed at for being sickly and losing my hair. As I grew into an adult, I learned the importance of carrying those early lessons with me and turning them to positive ends. I found ways to apply my life experiences to keeping my plants alive and found that I began to thrive, and so did my plants. Nature provides me with a connection, a sense of belonging, and peace. I spend as much time as I can outside, cherishing the delights and wonders of my plants. When people spend too much time looking at screens, they disconnect themselves from life all around them. Spending time with our hands in the dirt gives us the opportunity to feel the warmth of the sun and the coolness of the wind and to experience the clarity that comes with fresh air. With something different to appreciate in every plant, our senses are stimulated and engaged. The vibrant colors of blooming flowers are a gorgeous sight for our eyes, and the smell of fresh nectar makes every moment in the garden sweet. The sound of leaves rustling with the swaying of the trees and the songs of the birds who nest in them remind us we are never alone when we are outside. Food always tastes better when you grow it yourself. When the seasons change, our plants adapt and take on new forms, reminding us that we are constantly in motion. We are never done working, learning, and growing, and there is joy to be found in every seed we plant. I posted my first video that connected plants to people online at the suggestion of a former student and friend. He believed people were hungry for guidance on growth and wellness and would embrace my garden observations and wisdom. I barely understood social media at the time, but within a few weeks, I'd been compared to Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross more times than I could count and found a community of people yearning to grow. Although I still have much to learn, I am proud and humbled that so many people are interested in my message. I hope this book helps you find peace in your mind, balance in your body, and harmony in your spirit. Perhaps you'll be inspired to get a plant, or start a garden, or to care for the greenery you have in new ways. Either way, let's reconnect with nature and grow together. In my 27th year, I started working at a private preparatory school in Texas, a job I saw as an opportunity to nurture, empower, and share skills that will last a lifetime. This job made me do something I hadn't done before: settle. I bought a house and committed to living in one place after years of traveling every few months. The adjustment was difficult, but I did my best to find ways to adapt. At the same time, my dear friend's mother closed her nursery and had a surplus of leftover plants. She gave me 16 exotic plants as a housewarming gift, and I drove them from Florida to my new home in Texas before the start of my second school year. Within 2 months, I killed 9. I was determined to keep the rest alive. For the first time in years, I was reconnected to those days as a child in my grandmother's garden, the place that holds my earliest memories of watering the hibiscus trees, picking their red and pink flowers, and as I mentioned, chewing on the stems. Plant care was new territory for me as an adult, but I committed to learning everything I could to save the others. I went to the local plant stores and bought hundreds of dying and marked down plants. Some cost as little as 6 cents. I didn't care what they were, and their names were unimportant to me. All I wanted was to help them grow. Not only did I learn how to encourage growth and keep my plants healthy, but I found parallels between plants and people. Like plants, we need resources to grow. We go through different stages we go through different stages of growth. Our environment and community affect our growth. We maximize our potential when presented with the right conditions. Above all, the life inside us yearns to grow. With care and attention, we can cultivate that growth. The primary difference between us and our plants is that we must choose to focus on our growth. Plants do it instinctively. We can consider our environment, evaluate our community, and assess what we need to do to best support our mental health, physical fitness, and spiritual awareness. We can also ignore all the factors that affect our growth. Unlike plants, we're liable to become distracted and shift our focus away from our growth. Our agency can be a tool or a vice. It's up to us. These parallels I saw enforce These parallels I saw reinforce conclusions I drawn from my observations in my studies and travels. It was an enlightening epiphany to realize we can learn about ourselves by learning about plants. I brought these lessons to my classroom and watched my students prosper. I developed stronger bonds with my family and friends. I felt more grounded and at peace. In the midst of my learning and experimenting with plants, one lesson changed how I will forever think about growth. We cannot make anything grow, but we can foster environments where life wants to grow. I'm going to repeat that. We cannot make anything grow, but we can foster environments where life wants to grow. Growth cannot be forced, only nurtured. As much as I wanted to see every plant in my care flourish, I recognized this would only happen if I paid attention, considered the factors that affected growth, and fostered the right conditions. It later dawned on me that I did for my plants what I'd done for myself all my life. Okay. And so now we're going to go over to chapter 3, which is titled Planting Seeds. Choose what you will sow. We have observed our gardens, cultivated our soil and chosen our seeds. We have observed ourselves, prepared our minds, and decided to align ourselves with positivity. The final step of developing our positive mindset is planting the seeds of our new hobbies, habits, and routines. Life is finicky. A sunflower is likely to grow upwards of 1,000 seeds, yet only a handful will mature into plants. Seeds need the right conditions to sprout. This can be troubling for beginner gardeners because no matter how much they research and prepare, their seeds do not grow. The same can happen with new hobbies, habits, and routines. Maybe we have not figured out how to sustain our new hobbies, habits, and routines because our old ones are taking all our time and energy. Establishing new ways of thinking and doing things is a complex process, and we may not be successful the first time around. When this happens, we return to preparing. We spend time clearing our souls so that we can replant new seeds and foster their growth. This is the act of practicing. If we let our failures stop us from trying again, we will never be successful. I created a framework of thinking to stop me from falling into the trap of letting failures and mistakes stunt my growth. Lessons versus barriers. Lessons are the results of positive thinking and deciding to face challenges as they are and seek out ways of learning from them. Barriers are the result of negative thinking and allowing challenges to stop us from moving forward. I avoid barriers because they hold me back and teach me nothing. And I instead seek out lessons that I can draw upon to make more informed choices in the future. When we approach our experiences with this dichotomy, we are likely to learn lessons that help us make progress rather than create barriers that hold us back. Through continuous effort and learning lessons, we can try again until we see growth. Be deliberate with your garden. We must pick our seeds carefully because they not only affect us, but they impact our communities. Our hobbies, habits, and routines include how we interact with each other, with others, and how we contribute to the world. When we collectively plant seeds of love, kindness, patience, and positivity, we grow stronger as individuals and put down healthier roots as community. These roots lead to strong and stable trees that yield fruits of success. The more I plant seeds of love with uplifting gestures and kind words, the more I enjoy the fruits of success. To plant these seeds, I engage in meaningful conversation, look out for others, and encourage those around me to be their best selves. I believe my push to be disciplined, respectful, and caring has increased my intelligence, made me capable in my everyday actions, and inspired my ingenuity. Opportunities to grow have been abundant, with success found even in my failures. I view failure as an opportunity to learn. Conversely, it is too easy to plant seeds of negativity in the world, which grow toxic and destructive roots. The negative seeds include bias, stereotyped thinking, and the belittling, discouraging comments we say to each other. Once they've been planted, these negative seeds germinate in our thoughts like weeds that obscure our beauty and prevent connectivity. A community grown from toxic seeds has no cohesion, making it harder for people to sustain any connection. Miscommunication follows, which pushes people further apart. When facing obstacles without understanding, good communication or respect, animosity and a disagreement are almost inevitable. These are the kinds of disagreements that end with aggression, even violence. We need to be conscious of what we plant because our choices affect our communities and environments. I realized this as a young boy when I worried I'd get punished for the accidental planting of a tree, planting acorns. As a child, I loved to practice my aim by throwing rocks, berries, and acorns at different targets. The targets could be anything from trees to fence posts to falling leaves. We children were always looking for a challenge. My cousin and I would venture all over the neighborhood looking for the best place to set up for practice. One day, we planned to spend an afternoon throwing rocks and acorns at pails we set up in an empty lot a couple of properties down from my grandmother's. We shifted our focus when I noticed something strange in an acorn I ready to throw. It had a split down the center, revealing a sliver of orange. I called my cousin over to take a look. What could it be? We took turns picking at the acorn until we could pull the mysterious orange piece out. It was a kernel. I had no idea that an acorn was actually a shell encasing something else. After realizing we could pull out the kernel, we spent the rest of the afternoon pulling kernels out of the other acorns and throwing those at our targets. My cousin and I rarely played in the same place 2 days in a row. We had a circuit so we would never get bored. About a month later, our circuit began again, and I went to set up the pails for our throwing practice in the empty lot. Upon returning to the target, I had set up the day we pulled the acorns apart. I noticed something growing out of one of the kernels, the tiny sprout of a leaf. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea that acorns were alive. I looked up at the tree the acorns had fallen from, and it dawned on me. Acorns are seeds. We stopped setting up for our game and searched for other kernels that had begun to sprout. Our search demanded a keen eye and determination found only in curious children. Out of the hundreds of kernels we inspected, only a few sprouted with new growth. As we were sorting through the array of fallen acorns, a squirrel came along, picked one from the stack we had collected, took it to a spot at the edge of my grandma's property, nibbled it, and then dug a hole and buried it in the ground. My heart sank. What if the squirrel was planting a tree? Was the acorn one of the sprouted? I could get in trouble if a new tree grew out of nowhere. My cousin and I ran over to our acorn collection and smashed all of them. We were terrified of getting chastised for any rogue trees that might grow in the abandoned lot. I now know that the squirrel could have simply been hiding the corn as a snack for later, but at the time, I believed it to be deliberately planting the seed of a future tree. It looked like it knew what it was doing when it inspected, sniffed, and bit the acorn before dropping it in a hole and covering it with soil. I worried the lot would become a forest because of this pesky rodent. The experience taught me that I should be deliberate with the seeds I plant because I want to control what grows where. When it comes to planting seeds in my mind, I want to be thoughtful with the hobbies, habits, and routines I develop. Without this carefulness, I could mindlessly plant seeds of hobbies, habits, and routines that are toxic to my well being. Every thought we have plants a seed in our minds, so we should be conscious of what we sow. I have no desire to invite harmful weeds, invasive species, or toxicity to my garden, so I do not plant seeds thoughtlessly. I choose to plant seeds of love and kindness so I am compassionate when connecting with others. Seeds of patience and positivity keep me calm and balanced in all I do, especially when confronting hardship. Growing and maintaining a garden isn't easy. Neither is maintaining a positive mindset. They can be difficult to achieve, but they are beneficial to us and our communities. The kinds of seeds we plant are up to us. Consider your environment. It's important to note that not all plants can grow in all environments. Too much sun will scorch some plants, and too little will deprive others of vital nutrients. Aquatic plants won't fare well outside of water, and sunflowers will die if submerged. When cultivating a garden, we want to plant seeds that will survive the climate and other environmental factors. Similar to ourselves, we need the environment of our mind to be conducive to our hobbies, habits, and routines. Fortunately for us, our minds are far easier to change than the landscape of the earth. If our minds are too low light or shady for the plants we hope to grow, we need to figure out how to bring the sun to our new garden. Perhaps the branches of an old and established tree are in the way, and we need to cut them off to allow the sun to shower its rays on our burgeoning seeds. We cannot make our seeds grow everywhere. We must do what we can to support them. Chapter 4. Patience. Don't rush your growth. Growth cannot be forced. After taking time to evaluate our space, imagine and then prepare our future garden, and plant seeds, we have to learn the next skill for our gardening journey: patience. Our seeds are now in our soil. Maybe we see new growth peeking above the soil. Maybe our seeds did not sprout and we're starting over. In either circumstance, we need to apply patience. Patience is different from the passive activity of waiting and letting time pass until something changes. It's the act of maintaining focus and observation while waiting for something to change, and it is an active practice because it requires constant effort. We never stop using observation as we develop new hobbies, habits, and routines, and therefore a positive mindset. Because creating new practices takes time, we cannot stop observing how they are affecting us. Neglecting to observe their progress could result in negative practices or failed attempts. Did my plant like that extra watering? Did I feel better when I decided to stretch during the day? Was I restored or exhausted after practicing a particular hobby? It's easy to crave immediate success and give up when we do not experience it. Patience reminds us that we will not bloom unless we give ourselves the time to reach that stage of our growth and nurture that growth with regular sunlight, water, and air. Patience can feel like agony when we are entirely focused on results and overlook the process. I spent my childhood waiting for buses with my mother, waiting for my health to improve, waiting for the bullying to stop, waiting. Waiting did not come easily to me. I had to learn patience and how to keep myself productive while working toward a far off end. One childhood experience keeps me grounded in patience to this day, as it provoked a new sense of understanding for me. Marcus tells number 4, left behind. One summer morning when I was 11, I woke up early and jumped out of bed. There was no way I could sleep. My uncle was taking 6 of my cousins and me to a theme park across town. On a normal day, my mother left early for work and I'd say goodbye to her from my bed. This day, she found me moving around the house. I saw her spot the clothes I laid on the chair by the front door. I didn't want to ruin them before it was time to leave, but I also wanted to be able to put them on quickly when my uncle arrived. She gave me $10 so I could buy myself some food at the park. I was on top of the world. Around 6:30 a.m., my mother left the house. My uncle was to arrive 2 hours later, so I finished my chores, made my bed, cleaned the bathroom, and did some homework. I looked at the clock at 8 o'clock a.m. and could not believe that I still had to wait another 30 minutes. I double checked my homework and went outside to bounce my basketball in the driveway to pass the time. I went inside to check the clock. 8:05. I checked the clock again and again. How was time moving so slowly? 8:30 at last. I looked out the window hoping to see my uncle's car pull up to my driveway. I've been known to be impatient, so I refrained from calling his house. I decided to wait. At 8:45 I called my grandma. She said they were running late, so he had just left and was on his way to me. I decided to get dressed in the clothes I'd set aside. To keep my mind busy, I went back outside to bounce the ball. I decided to do that for the 5 to 10 minutes it would take them to arrive. I carefully practiced drills this time, making sure to keep my clothes pristine. I practiced longer drills. I bounced the ball sideways, backward, and against the wall of my house. I did not let myself go inside to check the time. I was determined to be patient. The sun began to shine brighter as morning shifted into daytime. I realized I was both hungry and thirsty, so I went inside to grab a snack while I waited. I opened the door and looked at the clock. I saw it was 9:30. I called my grandmother. Well, baby, they left, and they should have been there, she said. As I fixed myself something to eat while I waited, I tried not to worry. I hoped nothing had happened to them. Did I go inside at the wrong time? Outside? What if I missed them? What if they called and I didn't hear it? I checked the voicemail. Nothing. At 10:30, I figured I would be productive while I waited. I did more homework, read, did extra chores, anything I could think of to keep my mind busy. At 2 o'clock, I accepted that nobody was coming. I took a nap. I woke up with a profound sadness. As I dealt with the heaviness of my emotion, I thought about the chances of getting to go to the theme park another day. I concluded that my sadness would not help me get there, so I sat down to make a list of my goals for the future. The first thing I wrote was to apologize to my uncle for whatever I did to make him leave me behind. Going to the park was number two. A couple of hours later, my uncle showed up at my house to apologize. In the chaos of getting all my cousins ready, he thought he had everybody with him. He was distracted in the car and he forgot to pick me up. He only noticed when they arrived at the park and it was an hour drive too late to get me. Anytime I find myself getting impatient, I reflect on this experience. I went through mental anguish during those hours of waiting. There were moments of fear when I worried that something happened to my family, moments of doubt when I questioned if I had somehow missed them, and moments of guilt when I wondered if I had done something to deserve it. Throughout the day, I was impatient, restlessly waiting for something to happen. I realized none of the negative thoughts were helping me to get to the park or have a good day. It never occurred to me that I could have simply forgotten. Had I let my negative thoughts consume me to the point that I acted upon them and thrown a temper tantrum at my uncle or broken things in my house out of frustration, I would have prolonged my discontent and potentially created more problems for myself to deal with. This situation may sound like a sad story or one with an unhappy ending. Practicing patience does not guarantee we will receive the outcome we desire. What is most important about patience is that it keeps us from being impatient, which can result in a negative mindset that stops us from moving forward. If we stop moving forward, we stop growing. Over the following 3 years, I visited the theme park 8 times. Activate your patience. Patience is not passive. It requires discipline and commitment. When we get excited about a new plant, we often just want it to grow faster or show signs of change immediately. This can lead us to overwater it or move it around excessively as we worry we're not doing enough to encourage it to grow. When we are eager to start a new endeavor or chapter in our lives, it's easy to want to see or feel a sense of change in ourselves. Our desire to rush the process of developing the new hobby, habit, or routine can result in a misguided assessment of our progress. But patience isn't all hard work. We can enjoy the slow pace and admire our seeds at every stage. Whether your pomegranate seedling is freshly planted or your tree is giving you delicious fruit, take pride in the steps you make toward a goal. Patience gives us the gift of finding pleasure where we didn't expect it and in the becoming of the thing that we are waiting for. In between the front of my house and my front yard is a long rectangular gardening bed. When I moved in, a 4-foot tall box hedge inside the patch soil lined the house, leaving space for some smaller plants. I considered how to use this prime plant real estate, and I had several ideas. Maybe I could fill out the space with some variegated ginger or low-lying hosta, or perhaps I could plant some coleus. During my contemplation, there was a science fair at the school I worked at. One group of students was growing different seeds with hydroponics, and among their crop were morning glory vines. The flowers were absolutely gorgeous. Royal blues blended with amethyst purples blossoming from a white center. Upon asking what the beautiful flowers were, the students were kind enough to give me some of their seeds. I brought them home, prepared the front bed, and planted the seeds. I was so excited to see the flowers that I found myself checking the beds every day for new growth. I checked daily for 2 weeks, and every day I saw nothing. One day, I was delighted to see a sprout of green, only to realize it was a weed. Hastily and slightly confused because I had spent quality time clearing the bed, I bent down and plucked it. It turned out that it was not a weed at all. The first of my glories had surfaced. Desperate to save it, I tried to replant it, only to notice I had inadvertently disrupted the roots of 3 other seedlings near it. The roots of the 4 plants were intertwined and still fragile at that stage of their growth. I did not know how wide these plants' root were. uh, excuse me. Let me reread that. I did not know how wide these plants root before emerging before soil. My impatience caused me to undo 2 weeks of growth of 4 plants in 1 second. I couldn't believe it. I stood there in my front yard, dumbstruck for several seconds, trying to come to terms with my mistake. I am now much more conscious when I approach my seeds and seedlings, and I am patient as I wait for them to grow. I still go out to look at my plants every day, but without the pressure to see something new. Instead, I look to appreciate my plants and whatever I am fortunate to see that day. One day, when I was still learning to be a gardener, I was looking for growth on my roses when I noticed the deep reds and purples emerging throughout the thorny green bush. Given just how many small half-inch purple ovals there were emerging, I thought this could be a significant problem. Upon a closer observation, I noticed the purples were morphing into reds. As these reds looked a little like leaves, I decided to, excuse me, upon closer observation, I noticed the purples were morphing into reds. As these reds looked a little like leaves, I decided to wait to worry. Over the next several days, I observed the red leaves turn green, and I realized the colors signified the different stages of the plant's growth. The leaves emerged purple, matured red, and settled green. The contrasting colors were beautiful in their own right, purple and red, red and green. I learned that nature goes through stages. Had I tried to intervene and fix the rose bush, I would have only disrupted its natural cycle. Patience helps us act appropriately. and only when necessary. It takes a lot of practice, and practice takes persistence. This has been our selection today from How to Grow, Nurture Your Garden, Nurture Yourself by Marcus Bridgewater, aka Garden Marcus. And I'm going to put up the cover again so that you can see it. And here we go. Again, our selection has been How to Grow, Nurture Your Garden, Nurture Yourself. We've been telling you where our authors are from, and of course, you heard that he's from Zellwood, Florida, my home state. And so he is from the United States of America. Well, we want to remind you that we are here at the International Great Black Read Aloud Day, reading aloud, giving voice to words written by Black people all around the world, doing it for educational purposes to just help us to understand again how diverse and how wide and how varied Black literature is. And so we want to invite you to read along with us. You can read right along, choose a day or choose days, and we're going to just keep reading. We want you to announce if you do decide to read, announce the title of the literature, identify the author, identify yourself, read for at least 5 to 7 minutes, and you'll probably read longer. Don't forget to tag your video, the International Great Black Read Aloud Day, or Tig Brad or Tig Brad 2024. And don't forget to invite your family and friends to hear you read. We are going through all our days, and tomorrow is day 16. It is Jazz Music Day. It's a Friday, and so it's a great day for something on jazz and music. And of course, as always, I think we have a great selection. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow here on the International Great Black Read Aloud Day. Again, our selection for today has been How to Grow, Nurture Your Garden, Nurture Yourself by Marcus Bridgewater. And we will see you tomorrow for day 16, Jazz Music Day. If you haven't, go right over there and subscribe to greatblackreadaloudday.org and take a look at our reading list. Our covers are there. Make sure that you are checking these books out. And of course, we only read just a piece of books. And so hopefully there is something that tickles your fancy and makes you want to buy the book and read all of it. Well, we'll see you tomorrow and happy reading and keep giving voice. Bye bye.